You're listening to SM Media. Hi, folks, and welcome to the latest episode of the SM Media East of Scotland football show. All things SM Media East of Scotland. I'm Scott McPike. It's an absolute pleasure to be your host as always. It's an absolute delight to finally get back to doing the show. There are a couple of weeks, obviously, been a lot happening as we will get into. We did a roundup last week for people that can view on the website. You can see all that on there. We just kind of brought everyone up to speed with where we're at in the leagues, but there's a lot to get through. I'm delighted to welcome my first managerial guest of the season. It's a pleasure and a privilege to welcome the manager of Lochgelly Albert. It's a pleasure to welcome Paul Beveridge. Paul, welcome to the show, and thank you very much for agreeing to be the first guest of the new season.
Cheers, Scott. Pleasure's all mine. Thanks for having me on.
Absolute pleasure. Obviously, like in terms of kind of ways they're at, like I don't want to be kind of that person of right. You're sitting second already. You must be thinking about promotion. But the way the kind of the third division works, and obviously you've been in a position where you want to get back up, and we know that. And last season was a big step towards that. Like in terms of where the club's at, where do you kind of view Lochgelly at this moment in time? What is the kind of vision for promotion and trying to get back up the leagues? Is that kind of too long term, or is it just a case of one game at a time at the moment?
I mean, look, the end goal is obviously to get back to the division above.
Yeah.
But like you said, it's still early doors. We know that it's a really, really competitive league. And on any given day, anybody can beat anybody. Similar to most of the divisions at the minute, to be honest. But, I mean, we'll just take one game at a time. I've got an idea in my head where we need to be at certain points throughout the season, points wise, to try and get us over the line. But I'll just keep ticking off the points as they come in.
And I want to kind of get your thoughts on last season, because obviously I think it was clear to a lot of people, and I'm sure you'll agree, you did have a case of kind of two sides at the top, like West Calder and Bathgate, who were a fair way clear of the rest of the league. But you had like a nice kind of balance between, like, there was obviously only 11 points between yourselves and Hart Hill. The one thing that kind of jumps out to me, just in terms of, and I'm keen to get your thoughts on this as well, there was only 2 goals between yourselves and Hart Hill last season in terms of goals scored, but 22, they'd obviously conceded 22 less. Like, I know you'll probably be a bit of a pessimistic manager, as I know a lot of people are, but do you look at that and think, like, we did well in terms of scoring goals? Because I remember, like, some games you were winning, as you say, with the 6 goals and things like that, but like conceding goals, was that a big problem last season in terms of where you wanted to be?
It was to start with. I mean, I think that's what killed our season, was the sort of first 10 games. And we were averaging probably 3 goals a game against at a point of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Then after that, it kind of evened itself out, and then we started to pick up more points, and we stopped shipping as many goals. So it wasn't an overall thing across the season. It was just that first sort of 10 games that really killed us, I think.
And obviously, the way the league works, obviously, it's 30 games. You play each other 3 times. It's obviously a tight division. Like, has there been any kind of takeaways from the kind of way the systems went in terms of going down to that third division? A few sides are obviously on the rise. The likes of, as we said, like Whitburn have came for there, West Calder, Bathgate. You can imagine these sides are going to progress the kind of better they get. But do you kind of like the way the system's going with these sides coming in? And obviously, like, is it good to get them early and see what they're like as they kind of move on? Bonus been another example, them kind of coming into a different region, to a different kind of setup, and they're progressing. Is it good to kind of see that early, and then like in a few years' time you'll maybe come across them in a cup or a different league, and you see just the rapid rise these clubs can do?
I think because everybody went in at that sort of bottom level, all the West Lothian teams and that you're never going to see a true reflection of the league until maybe another 2 or 3 years, when everybody sort of moves up, down, and gets to their true level. So that I mean, you hit the nail on the head with the likes of Bowness, Whitburn, teams that are just going bouncing back-to-back promotions. West Calder look good to do that again this season too. So, I mean, as far as taking anything away from it, no, really, no. You know yourself that just because they're flying in this league, depending on how they invest. I mean, look at Hart Hill; they were good last season, and I don't know what's happened to them this season.
Do you think there is a kind of big step up from the kind of third division to second division? Because like, even looking at the league kind of this season, like Newbury are in 7 points, Ormiston 7, kind of like Edinburgh United are in 7 as well. Like, those sides have came down, but there is obviously like yourselves and a few other teams who look to be kind of well catered to move on, whereas sides are coming down. Do you think it is going to be tough for them to kind of get back up? Like, is that something you want to kind of buck the trend of?
I think it will be, because like I say, the third division's competitive and there's good teams in there. And I think the leagues above, if they've not played anybody in the third division, they kind of underestimate it a wee bit. Yeah. So it will be difficult, and we found that ourselves. And I think when we come down season before last, going into the start of last season, I think the players and myself, maybe not so much myself, but I think the boys kind of thought, well, we were a level above, so it should be pretty straightforward to bounce straight back up, and then no actually realising how tough the league was.
Yeah, no, absolutely. In terms of the kind of start you've had, and just obviously what we did arrange this before, obviously Saturday, so like getting into this, you were in an unbeaten run, and I imagine it's been a difficult weekend, but going into the kind of first 5 games, I mean, 3 wins to start with, 6-2 win at home to Fauldhouse, which really caught my eye because, like, I remember being on the prediction show and I was speaking very highly about how I thought you had recruited well in the summer, and like going into the season, like in terms of that kind of first game, was there any kind of big things you wanted to change going into the new season?
No, really, no, because we finished last season pretty well, so it was just a case of, can we continue from where we left off? And we knew if we could do that, we pretty much we only brought in another couple of boys, so we pretty much did the nucleus of the same squad.
Yeah.
So we knew if we could just continue as we finished last season, then we would be all right. Like.
And how important is that when you've got a squad that, I mean, I look at the squad, and one thing that I noticed, I remember speaking in shows about it last season, there's such a good spread of goals, and I know obviously you've got one kind of goal scorer who's just kind of, again, kicking on massively against it again this season, Scott Russell. We'll get to him in a minute, but there seems to be a really good spread across your squad in terms of goals. Like, how important is that in terms of trying to get kind of competing on all fronts? Obviously, there's cups coming up as well. You did a good start on that. Like, how important is that to have that spread across the side?
Oh, it's massive. If you can get boys chipping in for all over the park with goals, then it's massive. And I mean, you mentioned Scott Russell there, and he had 32 or 33 goals last season. But for me, I would rather have 2 strikers that score 20 goals apiece than 1 striker that scores 40 goals. So, because you never know what's around the corner, injuries, etc. So, you have to spread the goals out, and we've got centre backs and that who could chip in with the goals and that as well. So it's good.
And like, obviously we'll get into kind of cups as well, kind of later on, like a big game coming up for you on Saturday. But like going into the kind of Hoyt game, was that the kind of first? Like, how do you kind of look back on Saturday? Because going into that game, you had 1-4 out of 5, really good performances in there. Like, before we get into Hoyt, the first kind of 5 games, like, how do you look back on them? Like, 6 goals against Fauldhouse, 6 away at Livingston United, and then 6 at home to Pumferson, beating Stonyburn 2-0, who I've been quite impressed with so far, and then John Newbury. Like, leading into the Hoyt game, like, how happy were you with your start?
Aye, very, very happy. Especially with the amount of goals scored and the sort of goal difference we were taking in. And I said to you before, even the games, the 3 games where we scored 6 goals, there was never that big a difference between the 2 teams. And it was just case we took our chances. Mm-hmm. And then we look at the Newbury game, and we probably had another 3 or 4 really good chances that we didn't take on that occasion and come away with just a point. So, but you're not going to win them all, and there's always going to be games like that. So we were pleased with the start up until Saturday.
And obviously, kind of Hoyk as well. Obviously, really good game. I think the kind of reports I was getting was it was quite a kind of slow burner, but eventually came to life. And Hoyt were quite clinical in front of goal, and Lochgelly did kind of mount a comeback kind of late on. But like, how do you kind of look on that, and were you kind of impressed with the way Hoyt set up as well?
They're pretty similar to what we expected for last season. Difficult team to play against, difficult to break down, well organised, but they've got some quality up front in that as well, which will punish you, and that proved to be the case.
And does it kind of, like, when you have an unbeaten start like that, and obviously you have that kind of first blow, does it have a dampener in how you feel towards the kind of start you've had, or is it just a case of, as you say, kind of one game can go either way, move on? You've got a big occasion this weekend coming up, which I'm very interested to see how you do. Like, there's a lot of kind of big games coming up as well in the league. Like, a few away games that have caught my eye as well. Like, away at Pumferson, away at Ormiston. There's some big games coming up. How important is it to dust that off when you have that first defeat?
It's massive. We have to just put it down to experience. It's done now, innit? We can't change it. We just need to learn for what happened in that game, and then crack on. And it's everything goes on Saturday now.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of obviously the third division as a whole, like, Hoyt lead it obviously with 7. They've played 7 games of 14 points. Yourselves and Linton obviously in 13 points. Linton have obviously played a game less. They're the only unbeaten side in the league. We'll get to them in a second. But like, in terms of the league, like, there's a nice balance developing here. Like, Hoyt look pretty strong so far. Like, Harry Fowler's been scoring a lot of goals for them. Lochgelly, obviously yourselves have done really well. Linton as well though, like, I remember speaking to somebody on the show last season, and they said, Linton, let them get their first season in, and look at them next season. They'll really, really kick on. And it looks to be happening.
I was a bit surprised, to be honest, with the start they've had. But I think they've recruited well sort of towards the end of last season, over the close season, and then still recruiting well into the start of this season. So I think they deserve the credit they're getting at the minute. And it's good to have them in the league. It's a nice place to go. It's a good setup and that they've got down there. So really enjoy going down there.
And obviously you've got a kind of balance of different sides in the league as well. As we said, we obviously mentioned the likes of Newborough, Ormiston, kind of big clubs that are kind of coming down. Falthouse are obviously trying to work their way back up. Like Pumferson, there's a good setup there. Stonyburn. It's a well-balanced league. There's a lot of, like, as you say, kind of good away days, but there's a lot of sides. There's different kind of sides in the league that obviously, like, you've got certain sides who want to try and kind of get back to where they were, and then you've got sides on the rise. Like, it's shaping up to be a well-balanced league. Is that kind of something you'll kind of share?
Aye, definitely. I mean, you could probably pick 5 or 6 who there'll not be much to take between the teams, and so it's come the end of the season. It's going to be important. So who can actually just put wee runs of games together? I mean, nobody's going to run away with it, I wouldn't imagine, this season. But it's just important to keep the bad games to a minimum, the bad performance to a minimum, and then just build and try and build wee runs every time.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's obviously get into the other leagues in the east of Scotland. Obviously, it's been a while since we kind of spoke about them, but they're shaping up already to be very exciting. I'm keen to get your thoughts on them as a whole. Premier Division, only one unbeaten side so far, which I always think kind of shows how interesting the league is. Jeanfield, 17 points from 7 games, 5 wins, 2 draws. Just run through a couple of the results that have caught the eye. 7-2 at home at Glenrothes, 1-4-1 at Haddington, 3-0 at home to Dunipace before that. Jeanfield, there's a lot of quality there. You can see that with the kind of way the seasons went so far. They look, one thing they do is they look solid.
Jeanfield are always there or thereabouts, and they're always battling out at that top end of the table. And they have, I mean, I watched your man, what's his name? There's all the vlogs and that. He was up watching Jeanfield against Glenrothes, and I watched his vlog. And Glenrothes were unlucky not to take anything for the game, but it just goes to show that, as well as being able to put 7 goals here, they can battle out and scrap wins as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you've got sides obviously on their tails, like we've obviously mentioned Whitburn, but Musselburgh, again, a few people obviously fancied them to do really well. They've started really strong. Top goal scorers in the league, I believe. They've scored, I think they're one of the only sides apart from Genefield that have scored in every game. 6-0 at Tynecastle. They lost 3-2 at Donipace, which again is a very interesting result. But Musselburgh have started really strong. Like they were getting into the season really well fancied. They were obviously kind of second last year, looked the best of the rest. Like, where do you kind of stand with Musselburgh? Like, they've obviously had some big occasions coming up, and like they've had a good start. They look pretty good so far as well.
Again, they're one of the teams like Genefield that's always there or thereabouts, and it is just again, like I said, all the leagues, if they can keep the bad performances or bad results to a minimum, I'm sure they'll be up there again.
You've obviously got a few interesting kind of developments so far this season as well. Like Pennycook have changed manager, Hillaby they've changed manager. Obviously, like Pennycook, obviously Lewis Cole, really appreciate him coming on here as well, and I wish him all the best and his future. Alan Moody as well, really impressed with the job he done at Hillaby's. But Pennycook have started well. You'd imagine they will get somebody in and they'll be able to build on that. Hillaby's, let's straight away Robbie Rayside, who I think is a terrific appointment coming in there. And then I think his first two games, one's 5-0 at Donipace, one's 6-0 away at Dundonald. Like, you couldn't ask for a better start. And in terms of somebody who knows the league and knows how to get a side well built in this division, I think he'll be the one I watch with Robbie, to be honest.
Aye, I was going to say that Hillaby's the team to watch for me. I think Moody got them off to a good start, had them put a good foundation in that down there, and the appointment of Robbie, I think, is a class bit of business for Hillaby. I think he will take them to the next level, similar to what he done when he was at St Andrews. So I think it's a great appointment.
And obviously, kind of sides like Whitburn, Socky, like Haddington as well, who have really I really didn't kind of know what to expect for Haddington this season, but they started brilliantly, and I think we've got to take our hat off to them. Like Socky as well, like they've got a really kind of well organised manager. Whitburn that just look as if they're going to kick on as well. Like there's some good sides in that division. Have you been taken by like kind of any of these sides like Socky or Haddington or anything like
that? No, really, no. I think it's a bit early yet. There's like two or three wins apiece and a couple of defeats, draw. So nobody's really, apart from the ones at the top, nobody's really built up that sort of heady steam yet, so you can suss out kind of where it's going to go.
Like Glenroth has had a good start as well. A couple of sides that I think will be quite disappointed so far, and I know the managers obviously fairly well, and I know where they'll be at. Dunbar, I think, will be disappointed that they've only won one in their first 7. Tynecastle, I think, will be similar. Like these sides are obviously really good experience in there. Like when you're 7 games in and you have that kind of disappointing start, like you obviously would have maybe known that last season. How important is it to just keep things calm and whatever plan they've had at the start of the season, keep towards that, because you never know when it will turn.
Aye, exactly. And as long as you believe in what you're doing and you're happy that you're going in the right direction, clearly sometimes that's not the case and you will need to change things. But if you believe in what you're doing and you're going the right way, then you just need to stick with it, because you know yourself, when you are doing that in the table, when things aren't going your way, you didn't get the breaks, the wee lucky breaks that would maybe get when you're on a roll. But you just need to keep believing and try and stay positive.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of other end of the table as well. St Andrews have had a disappointing start. Edinburgh Uni, I think it's really tough to assess the Uni sides at this point, because you don't know. I've said this a lot. You don't know what sides are, what kind of, with the way their kind of situation works with the kind of nucleus. I think comes in round about kind of mid-September time. You don't really know where you're at with them. I know obviously here at Watt are kind of bucking that trend a wee bit, as we'll get into, but it's quite tough to assess those type of sides at the start of the season, isn't it?
It all depends on the term time and who's local, who's no local. So it takes a mid-season before they really start to show face. Like,
yeah, absolutely. But that's going to make it a great Premier Division. I think the first division this season could be absolutely phenomenal, and we're going to get into that as well. Newton Grange lead at the top just now, 17 points from 7 games. one of only two undefeated sides. Newton Grange, I always felt were quite unlucky last season. I think they can kick on. Really good manager. Similar to kind of a lot of sides, they've kept their nucleus there, which is going to be massively important. They'll have a point to prove with not getting up last season, and you feel as if that they're already kind of starting kind of quite convincing fashion. Like, they had some good results in there. I was really taken by the 4-0 win against Thornton Hibs. They just look pretty good so far.
Aye, and they'll fancy themselves as being a Premier League team. They've been up there long enough, and the fact that they didn't get back there last season will probably sting a bit. We played them in a cup game last season, and I was really impressed with the way they played, the way they moved. Again, great setup as well. So, I mean, they'll be hoping to go back up this season, I would imagine.
Yeah, and Camelin will be similar as well. It's 16 points from 7 games. They're a side that should be kind of fancying promotion. They've had a really good start. They've went and recruited well. There's a lot of players in there that probably should be playing at a higher level, but they had a disappointing opening day, and they've kind of kicked on from it. Like, they obviously lost at Heriot Watt in their opening game, and then they've been unbeaten ever since. Drew with Bowness at the weekend. I think a lot of people were interested in that. 0-0 draw. It kind of made a lot of sense that it was going to be that. Both sides probably not wanting to lose that first time against each other. Camelin are a side that you feel should be kicking on again.
Aye, 100%, and they'll feel that themselves, that there'll be pressure there to get that promotion this year to where they want to be. But it's just how they deal with that pressure and see where they end up.
Heriot Watt, 15 points from 7 games, 4 wins, 3 draws. I say a lot on here about how impressed I am with Banji and the job he's done so far. He plays the right way, knows what he wants in terms of kind of building a side. I think everybody in Scottish football's starting to notice now just how good a job he's doing there.
Aye, phenomenal. He's every time we've come up against Heriot Watt, they're just one of the best football playing teams I've ever played against or ever seen at this level. Everything's done the right manner. Great attitude about them as well. I just there's a lot to like about Heriot Watt.
Yeah, absolutely. Bowness as well, obviously, we spoke about them earlier. Kind of rapid rise through the leagues. Got some players in that I think are going to help them kick on. One thing that they're continuing to do as well, they can score goals for fun. When you've got that level of talent, they're scoring a lot of goals. Is it maybe interesting that have they started kind of the way you thought they have, or is it way too early to say? Because like, they're still obviously 3 points within top of the table, but like, I just think the way they've kind of been the past couple of seasons, like, it's hard to see them. Like, you expect to see the Bowness result, and you expect them to be winning 6-0 here and there every week, and when they're drawing with sides, it is difficult to believe. But that is just when you progress up the leagues, it's going to happen eventually.
Aye, and I still fully expect them to be promotion contenders, but being honest, I did expect them to have more than the 4 wins. Is it 4 wins they've got?
Yeah, 4 wins for 7, yeah.
So I kind of thought they'd be like sort of 5-6 anyway. And like I say, the draws didn't help. Like,
yeah, but again, they've got some interesting games coming up as well. In the next 4 games, they play Preston, Inverkeithing, Preston again, and then they play Heriot Watt away in the league. So that'll be interesting how it shapes up for them. They're obviously as well kind of carrying the flag in the Scottish Cup as well. They've had a really good run in there so far. Like, I know, obviously speaking to Wally in the podcast and things like that, like, I know that they're focused on establishing themselves as a Premier League team, but when you get that first feel of a Scottish Cup, especially in the Senior Scottish Cup, and you beat 2 sides in the west of Scotland the way they have, they must have a feel for, we can really make this a yearly thing. Like, they must have that in their head.
oh, 100%. They've got Talbot on Saturday in the Cup as well, so they'll fancy the chances to turn them out as well. So I'm glad. It's good to see teams for the East putting it to the West teams, because you always, I mean, for me anyway, I've always fancied the teams in the West to maybe be a wee bit level above what we've got across here, but it's not proven the case over the last few sort of seasons, especially when you look at try to get the playoffs for the Lowland League and that as well. The Scotland teams have done really well.
Yeah, absolutely. Crossgates have really impressed me so far as well. They had a difficult first day, but they've been unbeaten ever since. They obviously had a game postponed against Whitehill, but they've won four of the last five. They drew obviously after that. They've been really, really impressive so far. They'll be a side a lot. They'll be a side with a lot of points to prove. They'll want to be in amongst that. You look at that top five, and you think maybe kind of Armstrong, Thornton, Inverkeith, and maybe like Crossgates. You think they could be the ones that might kind of upset the apple cart, because I don't think a lot of people are expecting them to be as high as they are at the moment.
No, and they underachieved really last year. So that was a wee bit of a poke in the eye for them. I think they'll really want to get back up, but that's a tough division to get out of. So they will find it hard. But they've started well, so.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of sides in there as well, kind of so far. Solid starts, Kirkcaldy and Arniston with 9 points, Inverkeith, and obviously they've changed manager as well. What to say as well to Jason, all the best going forward. Thornton are in 8 points, Edinburgh South 7, Preston, Whitehill, Leith, Canoe have changed manager, Lochore obviously had a tough start. There's a lot of big sides in that league. Like it's going to be so tight, and as you say, when a league's so competitive like that, there's never an easy game.
No, and for me, Preston have had a disappointing start because we played them pre-season and they looked really, really good, sharp, great football, great movement off the ball, pacey, and I fancied them to be doing well. And then I've seen the start they've had, and it shocked me a wee bit, to be honest.
Okay. Into the second division, I'm not gonna blow the trumpet too early, but Armadale 19 points for 7 games, really really impressive start. West Calder 16 points from 6 games, and then Dalkeith are sitting in third with 11. Now I'm not saying already there's a wee bit of a gap developing, but you can't help be impressed with the way Armadale and West Calder have started.
I think West Calder, I think they recruited quite well as well. So I mean, they pretty much ran away with the league last year for the third division, and I didn't really expect them to start as well once they moved up a division, but that's after them, to be fair.
And that's another competitive league outside as well. Armadale, I want to touch on, like they've really impressed me as well. Colin's done a really good job since he's been in. They're scoring a lot of goals. I just want to run through some of the results they've had. 5-1 at Coldstream, 3-1 away to Bathgate, 3-1 at home to Kennaway, 4-1 at home to Harthill. They just look a side that they have a lot of depth in the attacking front, and it's about if they I don't think they'll have an issue scoring goals, and they seem to be keeping them out as well, because just looking here, apart from 3-3 away to Oakley, they've only had 2 clean sheets, which I imagine Colin will want to fix, but you can't help that they've scored a lot of goals so far, and when you have that amount of talent, they'll do pretty well.
Aye, and I think they're another one that sort of underachieved last season. I thought they would have done a lot better last season, but they've kicked on already this season, so they'll be up there. Like,
I'm going to put you in the spot here a wee bit. Do you know the only other unbeaten team in the second division, apart from Armadale and West Calder?
Hear it what?
It's actually Oakley United. They've had 9 points for their first 5 games, 2 wins, 3 draws. Like, I remember speaking about this on the prediction show we did. Like, Oakley and Vale of Leiden, obviously, a really tough couple of years they've had. Oakley, though, like, when you've had that kind of start, especially after such a bad run, can just work wonders for their confidence. And that really impresses me, just how well they've started.
And especially when you look at what's happened over the last couple of years with the back-to-back relegations.
Yeah.
It was never going to be easy, and fair play to Pete. He's done a good job at the start of this season, and hopefully it continues.
Yeah, absolutely. But there's some good sides in that league as well. Dalkeith, Edinburgh College on 11 points. Tweedmouth have been impressed with their start, along with Kennaway and Bathgate. Burnt Island East House is in 8 points. Peebles, Coldstream have a decent starts. Bit tough for Vale of Leiden, obviously still on uni reserves in Harthill, but some big names in that league as well, like Dalkeith, Tweedmouth, like Bathgate. There's a lot of sides in there that will be challenging, and they'll be really kind of content with where they are at the moment.
I mean, outside the sort of the top 2, 3, then again the next pretty much down to the 12th position, pretty even. Like what 2 wins, 3 wins. So there's not much between them. It'll be definitely a tight division.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, we spoke about the third division. Obviously, kind of cups as well that are quite interesting. Like, what I kind of say a few kind of words about the kind of performances we've seen in terms of some of the cup performances. Like, just that some that caught my eye over the past kind of couple of weeks. Like, we've seen some really good performances, and I just want to kind of single a few out just when we get them. Obviously, like Alex Jack Cup, Oakley winning 4-0 at Ormiston. We've seen obviously the kind of Challenge Cup's obviously interesting because that the next round of that's coming up last week. You obviously went to Blantyre and won 4-2 in penalties. Like, Blantyre, obviously a kind of well-established West of Scotland club. Like, how did you kind of find going there and coming away with penalties? Like, were you kind of impressed with the way they'd set up, and kind of how big was it to get that kind of first cup win?
It was great to get it. I mean, that's the first cup win I've had since coming into Lochgelly, so
Okay.
it was brilliant on a personal note. But to be honest, I thought it would have been harder than what it was. I thought the level would have been higher, but I think they've had a pretty poor start to the season anyway. So I think that took a wee bit of thingy for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, just in terms of the kind of the senior Scottish Cup as well, just a few results that I think show the East in a really good light. Vale of Leithen as well, winning 3-0 at Benburb, an established Premier Division team in the West of Scotland. Like, Vale of Leithen, we mentioned obviously about the confidence that does, but I mean, the senior Scottish Cup, like, they can dream, and to win that game the way they did, I think a lot of Benburb people were very impressed with how they set up.
No, it was pretty shocked for the result, like, but again, it's another one that maybe I don't know if the West teams underestimate the teams for the East, but because we put a pretty good show up against a lot of them a few games.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, kind of games coming up, obviously, with yourselves, big game coming up for you on Saturday. Just looking, obviously, Maryhill away, another West of Scotland team. Maryhill with a decent start in the West of Scotland. Like, how are you kind of looking ahead to that? Have you got any kind of special things you kind of look into with Maryhill? Are you keeping that a secret?
No. I mean, I've watched a few of their games on their YouTube channel and that, so fairly happy with what we're up against.
Mm-hmm.
But it would just be normal jogging for us. We just play our own game and try and make them adapt to us rather than the other way about.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, like, how big is it for the club and the whole community to get a wee run in a cup like that, and you like away days, like obviously like Blantyre and Maryhill, they're good occasions for the club. Like, how big is that? Well, obviously, hope you'll be hoping kind of if you get through the Maryhill tie, you'll be hoping for a kind of big name next round. And how big can that be for a club like Lochgelly?
Oh, it's massive, especially if we get a home tie against maybe a Lowland League team. So, but try not to look too far ahead and go about Maryhill on Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, kind of final kind of point before we kind of wrap up. Obviously, Ormiston next in the league. Some of the East of Scotland teams will have Scottish Cup ties as well that weekend. We'll be back the weekend after that. But Ormiston away, obviously, I know you're kind of thinking one game at a time. But in terms of league, just like you have had a really good start, and how important is it to build on that and try and kind of keep that momentum going?
Plus with the defeat on Saturday there, we really need to get back to getting more points in the bag. So it'll be a massive game for us. It's away from home as well. So not been there for a couple of seasons, but really important game.
Yeah, well, we can't wish you all the best enough for Saturday and the rest of the season going forward. Paul, thank you very much for your company tonight and for being the first guest of the new season. I've thoroughly enjoyed it.
Not a problem, my pleasure.
Thank you very much, and thanks very much to everyone that's tuned in. We will be back. No, obviously there's not many league games next week, so we will do a wee takeaways next week on the Patreon channel. And we will have an East of Scotland show after that, after the week, where we look ahead to what's coming up after that. Thank you very much, folks. We'll see you all soon. Thank you.